Welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And let's get into it. This business of magic, this cutting edge exploration, and the future of some of us will be magic. Wow. Let's go into it. Like, there's so much on my mind. Uh, from the events that led up to this moment to just everything. And really, what we're talking about, well, you have to have an experience with magic, and you have to have experience with life, the universe, your environment, yourself, your body, interactions. And it's through these. So, I guess I would say this video is creating enough foundational experience to understand how to elevate and move beyond, I would say, a book with symbols and rituals and what Westerners and modern people believe magic is. So we have to, so magic has always been corrupted because it's so much of an experience that it goes unsaid. And so most people who are in the art of teaching and practicing magic have to somehow communicate it to you. And so we talk about it. And so maybe there's symbols and rituals and traditions, cultural, personal traditions, you know, and that kind of contaminates magic because the essence of magic is a part of life. Like, I really like the old classic movie Willow, where the sage, the wizard, basically says magic is like the bloodstream of the universe. And so that gives you a real hint on the mechanics and the workings of magic itself. And so when you like go to a bookstore or you buy something online and it's a grimoire and people have called it something really catchy like chaos magic, but this time they're spelling it with a K and ooh, it's something new. And then they're just talking and talking. It's a philosophy now. And so one reason why magic is corrupted is because it's become so systemized. Just like the meaning of the tarot cards, they're so systemized um, that you don't actually have to have any intuitive ability. You don't have to connect with the spirit of the cards. You don't have to understand universal symbols. You don't have to understand a lot of things, and you can give a pretty good reading. In fact, you can just look at the pictures and give a pretty good reading, uh, which is kind of like what magic has become. You just do the song and dance, and you get a pretty good result. But do you really understand magic? Are you really working with it? Has magic become you? Have you become a part of magic? And so, thinking about this, you have to have encounters with life, encounters with the natural world. And so we see like New Agers collecting stones, and then they use the rainbow system. You know, if it's orange, it's for your second chakra. If it's yellow, it's for your third chakra. You know, and it's going to help your self esteem and joy and getting over fear and self confidence. You know, and if it's green, it's heart chakra. That's a basic system, but it isn't. So people kind of turn it into the science, they turn it into the religion, they turn it into the so called truth of this is how it is. This is how it works. This is why. So use a green stone for heart chakra, use a pink stone for self love. Am I saying over time this system isn't the truth? I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to have the experience connecting with each stone and then having it affect your body in a certain way. So, while going through the mystery school, the one that I went through, that is actually global and has a pretty strong foundation going on, just like the seasons, we've had more members and we've had less members. We've had a strong organization globally, then at different times it's moved down to 4 or 5 countries and things like that. So it ebbs and flows. And do you have to go to a mystery school to learn magic? The answer is no. Uh, but you might like to go have a group experience, of like minded people and realize you're not the only one who's deeply interested in magic. How could you be in a class of 30 other people who paid $500 to $1,000 to play with candles and sticks and herbs? And yeah, so you can have a lot of fun going through a magical system or a magical school. But but you have to realize, I would say all this is introductory magic. And so this is like where magic takes on a spiritual quality. When you have a personal experience with a certain stone or element or spell or an encounter with something magical, a force, an entity of some type, um, it becomes a part of your truth. It becomes a part of your evolution. It changes you. There's no way around it. You now know differently. And because you had the experience with it, it changes your DNA. It changes your energy. It changes your mind. You're now open to a bigger reality. So maybe a newer sense of freedom and maybe even a new sense of terror. So a lot of people um, have encounters with the supernatural, the paranormal. And when they don't have enough structure, we run into superstitions, delusional thinking, conspiracies, madness. And because you're opening up a door that is way bigger than you. Like you thought our planet was big with all the changes. Imagine opening up a door that opens you up to the whole entire universe. Imagine feeling small as just one human being going through one life cycle, of probably 80 years if you're lucky, you know. You're now opening up a huge, huge door. So, how can I tell you um, how vast and scary and overpowering it is? You can't imagine it because you've never experienced it. So, magic has always come with a huge warning, you know, and whether it's good or evil, that isn't even the point because, that's a belief system. That's not going to help you deal with the immensity, the vastness of jumping into a universe that's even bigger than anything most humans on the whole entire planet have ever dealt with. So we've really expanded that to a big, big blown out possibility. And so, are you really equipped? I mean, maybe you have responsibilities. You might have kids, you might have bills to pay, you might have a human body to take care of. You might have karma. Karma is what you do and what you need to do and the results of all this doing. So, you have a destiny, you have a function to fulfill. And so I would say those are the real warnings, you know. and then we want to be able, so now we know it's huge. So whatever we call truth isn't big enough to contain it, to make us sane, to make sanity, you know? Like, I really like that saying about what is chaos to the fly is normal for the spider. This is very true when you start going into any subject deeply. When you start going into chemistry, mathematics, and we're obviously figuring out with AI and artificial intelligence how quickly things can get out of your control, and how, you know, what is chaos to the fly is normal for the spider. Same with magic. What is normal for magic is chaos to anyone, everyone, humanity, and our simple little minds that want to put things into a nice little box called good or bad, light or dark, heaven, hell. This duality model has to be overcome, but it will anyways. It's not anything that you can really like intellectualize until you're there, you know. Uh, so I think people. So it's always best to start small and work your way up to bigger events. And of course, we would like big, mind blowing events. They're gonna happen. Um, and I would say right on time, hopefully, and with enough preparation. So, where people want to say, fear this and fear that, and watch out for this, and all these disclaimers, and protection, protection, and protection, and warding off, and all this hocus pocus, which I would call it New Age superstition, uh, metaphysical, paranormal superstition, fear based stuff, traditional folklore superstition, is because people weren't prepared well enough. And how can you really be prepared well enough? You can't. Uh, but you sure can try. And so look at a whole lifetime of preparation as something you will do. For every level of advancement, there's going to be probably twice as much caution, preparation, and understanding. You do not know as much as you think you know, and you want to get to that point. So humility happens, humiliation happens. You're like, I was so grand, I was so great, I astral projected, and I'm above all these humans who don't know how to astral project, and then all of a sudden you're in the astral plane and you realize, I thought Earth was a jungle. Now here I am finding myself in a sector in astral space, and it's even more crowded than the busiest street in the busiest city on the planet at rush hour. Uh, you know, so it's easy to lose parts and pieces of yourself. It's easy to get into trouble. And no banishing spell is going to help you. No faith in God is going to protect you when you're lost out in another universe that you ended up in. So things will probably never get that out of hand for you, you know. Uh, but there is a possibility. So we always want more, you know, more pleasure, more power, more safety, more security, more. And I would say on this journey, it's almost an endless road, lifetimes, lots of preparation, lots of practice. Practice is where you develop, lots of experimenting. And so I would say the correct attitude towards serious practitioners of magic uh, is that type of attitude. It's, I'm going to develop experiences with my own body, with my own mind, with my own psychology, which is going to be emotions. So, this whole mind, body, spirit therapeutic attitude or incorporation, like yoga, meditation, massage, any of that, being sensitive to energy work like Reiki, I would say this is all helping you develop experience. So then you can extend that farther with the earth, with things of the earth like trees and animals, other humans, you know? So there's some very practical careers for people who are developing in the magical arts. There's energy workers, psychics, massage therapists, estheticians, cosmetologists, actors, like anything where you can pour in creativity and sensitivity, you are developing your magical powers. Communication arts, anytime you're working with that, and psychology and computer programming. And so basically, every field can help you develop magically. So there's no reason why you have to separate yourself when the more you are working with yourself, your body, your mind, being present here on the planet, the more you're putting in that foundation cornerstone, the more you're actually building stability and magnetism to draw everything here to where you need it. So, as above, so below, as within, so without. I would say escapism, superstition, and religion has this notion, has this idea in our heads, Hollywood, that with a wave of a stick, you're going to get things you don't deserve and things you can't handle. Is that possible? Yes. Is that the norm? No. And if you're not, if you don't have enough foundation for it, then you might be having to wave that stick all the time and do all these spells. So if you need a lot of spell work, a lot of magic in your life, you're overcompensating, you're overusing your magic. You know, if you need card readings all the time, you're exhausting yourself. Instead, you should be developing your intuition, your empathy, developing your body connection so you can get those primal sensations, that gut knowledge that to register for you. It's like, so the more you put energy into yourself, understanding you, the more powerful you're going to be as a wizard, as a witch, as whatever direction you're taking yourself. You know, however you are co-creating your personal evolution, the more you're connecting with spirit. So we have a lot of different goals with magic that systems eventually end. And so it's like all these systems end and really have to tap into magic of some form slash metaphysics, quantum physics, to get anything out of it because systems are so superficial. You know, psychology is basically dead until they add creative visualization. What is that? But basically the use of magic. You know, religion's dead without their ritual, without the rituals, without the symbols, and without the sacred image. So there's psychological things going on, But then there's the element of magic, which brings life to religion. So we want to tap that main root. We want to tap that living vine that is basically the life force, that living intelligence, that bloodstream of the universe. When you're tapped into it, that creative power, suddenly you create beautiful music and everyone likes it. Suddenly, so it's like you poured your soul into it. What's that secret ingredient in her cooking? It's not love, it's magic. It's not faith, it's magic. It's not God, it's magic. And if you're having controversy going on inside of yourself, if you're feeling triggered, if you're having a psychological reaction, when I tell you everything that you're taught, every and how everything works, that's not how it is. It's actually magic. Well, then you're probably ready to go to the next level in your magical training. You know, where correspondence tables, the Hermetic 7 laws or 9 laws, and your tarot deck won't help you anymore. You're ready to have a teaspoon of magic in your life. And so, magic itself is hard to define. But maybe we can see the footprints in the snow and get an understanding for its nature. You know, we have to kind of track and hunt magic, learn its behaviors, understand its mysterious ways. But the beast that actually is magic will maybe always be elusive. But that doesn't stop us from learning and growing and exploring and having a passion for the arts and trying out everything and tweaking it. So it's nothing to create an identity about, really. It's like, it's going to happen anyways, you know. You might find that the path of the witch brings you closer to the essence of magic, that magical beast, that creature, that living bloodstream of the universe. You might actually find that through a religious practice. I would probably suggest Zen Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism to get you to find it that way. But you could find it in any religion, so you could find it in a discipline of some form. When people, you could find it in a sport, you could find it in the kitchen, you could find it in the garden, would be a really quick way to find the essence of magic. Um, so many ways. So, like, all paths are one, eventually you're going to get there. But the magical path definitely has, and I think it attracts a lot of people. Many are called, few are chosen, you know. Um, you will find yourself at different stages. Magic might be a hobby for you. It might be a pastime when you're bored or when you have no social life or when love interests are no longer appealing. That might be the time when you pick up magic. Uh, in, but there's gonna have to be a point in your life where you're like, is this so? Do you really have to give up your religion and all these other things to do magic? No. But then I have to say on the opposite, yes, you do. Because all these other things, their systems, their so called truths, their images, they all say they're the way. And I would say all these things have limits. The only path that has no limit in my mind is magic. And so eventually, you gotta stick with the team that wins, and you gotta pick the most valuable player who you know is going to make the shot. You're gonna have to what can you actually rely and depend on? That creative genius, that extra something, that magical force that has been governing or coordinating the will of whatever it is. So magic is making stuff happen, and it always has. Whether we had a complicated scientific model and named it quantum physics or dark matter or whatever, or we had a simplistic model, the web of life. So why should so here we are saying, whoa, mind blowing, fifth dimensional reality, everything is all connected. Well, didn't we already reinvent that will? And didn't we used to call that God? And didn't the and doesn't God have its limitations because we labeled it that? Because we made it in the form of a man and we created a story, and didn't we milk it for all it's worth? And we eventually had to put that down. And now we call it string theory and all sorts of stuff. But those will have their limits too, you know? So the web of weird, which is actually where the word wizard comes from, weirding, were people who are experts at manipulating the web of weird, the web that has no weaver, basically. So, but yet it exists. So you could call it fractal nature of reality, the holographic nature of reality. So see how these new names for something very old that's always been with us, that nature expresses, sacred geometry, this living. So you could get really far into your magical development by actually go to the living book, which is the earth. Go to living things to teach you how to understand and work with magic. So correspondence basically is as above, so below, basically the mirror like nature of things. So in homeopathics, if it looks like an eye, then these herbs are good for your eyes. If it looks like a heart or is the color of blood, these things are good for your heart and your blood and circulation. And so this was a very rudimentary way of saying the mirror like nature of reality. Reality reflects itself in multiple ways through all the kingdoms. We started to gain an understanding. It was like a little key, you know? And so it was a visual key, you know? Uh, and so that was like one way to kind of expand our reality, kind of, or help us read nature. And so I would say anyone who's really worth their salt is going into nature. And so does nature end with green things and rocks? No. You're a part of nature. And so this is where the spiritual wisdom of all the ages comes from. If you want to understand the universe, understand yourself, you know, and so spirituality gets incorporated into this understanding. If you really start to understand your mind, you start to understand consciousness, you start to understand universal mind, maybe the mind of God himself, you know. So if you really start, so you can start anywhere, wherever your interests are. They're all going to connect into like kind of a sense of oneness, kind of that new ager term, all is one is all for one, rah, rah, rah. But we already know this. I think what makes, so we're going to have some sobriety from sensationalizing everything, from romanticizing everything. and get practical, get scientific, get educated. And so part of education is field work. Go into the jungle if you're going to study animals from the jungle. Go to the mountains if you're going to study mountain ranges and minerals. Go into these things. So you have to kind of explore. You can't do everything in a laboratory. That's very specific, that's very limited, and it's a small section, you know? And so maybe it is like that for you. But eventually you're probably going to want to go out of the lab, go to the place where the minerals are sourced, understand things better. And so Magick should be opening you up. The deeper you get into it, in a weird way, the more positive it makes you the more lively, the more interested in life, charismatic, interesting and interested, lively, because it's expanding your mind. It's bringing you new information, and it's connecting things on all levels. And so your joy for life, your passion of life should grow. Your interest in existence should grow. And so this is how I know you're really developing on the magical path, and you're actually becoming a pretty good witch or a wizard. And so then we go, just by you saying that, I now see that I might have limited myself to dark magic, or limited myself to chaos magic or ritual magic as modern white man practices and dispenses it. And really, there's so much more. Or I've only thought magic was sourced by the nine powers, of other traditions, of exotic traditions, we'll call them. Or I thought magic had to be through words and rituals and visualizations, or through chakras. I'm like, yeah and no, and so much more. And so hopefully this is connecting you to understand you are part of the web of life. That's how you can communicate and network and start to integrate with the web of life on many planes of existence. It's a given, by understanding and working with you. Like, you are one of the greatest tools. You are part of existence. So there's really no room to be negative towards yourself.